Psalm 91, 11 and 12 say that he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you may not dash your foot against a stone. And the reason why I'm quoting this verse is because, like, back when I was 13, I remember sitting at a light on my BMX, and I was cursing at the traffic, you know, in town, in my hometown, because I couldn't cross the street. And I ended up, as soon as I saw an opening, like, I went to pull out, and I ended up getting hit by a car. And long story short, you know, I obviously deserved it, but long story short, it was by a pasture. So I was actually hit by a car that was being driven by a pasture when I was 13. And the crazy thing is a little later that year, I ended up moving out of state. I moved from Indiana to West Virginia. And I really got into hunting, like, a lot. And so I was hunting with my uncle, and we were hunting a couple hours away from our house. And we drove, like, you know, 2 hours out in the wilderness, or some back trail, and then we ended up hiking for another couple hours up in the mountains, some bowl hollow. I believe it was down in Pocahontas County, West Virginia. It was just really treacherous, you know, thick timber down that area. And we'd met for lunch in this bowl hollow, because we didn't hunt, you know, side by side or anything. We hunted several hundred yards apart. And we met for lunch in this bowl hollow, and being a kid, you know, I was still 13, still, you know, out there, still had a bad attitude, you know, still thought the world owed me everything. And after we had lunch, I saw this cliff. There's this huge cliff in the middle of this hollow. And it's probably 40, 50 feet cliff. You know, I don't know exactly how tall it was. It was big enough to, you know, die if you fall off of it. But being 13 and being curious, I started hiking up this cliff, or hiking up the side, like, you know, away from it. And I was kind of angling up to go, like, above so I could look over this, you know, rock face. And I'm climbing up there, and I looked over the side, and I had my fill, and I decided, oh, I'm going to hike straight up from this cliff, you know, because I was a stupid kid. And, well, the terrain was pretty rough. There was, like, fist-size pebbles, or, you know, little mini rocks underneath, you know, about 6 inches, 8 inches of leaves, because, you know, obviously it's hunting season, and so it's, you know, late fall. And so I'm kind of trekking up through there, and I ended up falling down, and I started sliding. And at first I didn't think it was a big deal until I tried grabbing for stuff. Couldn't grab anything, and I'm sliding, and I just remember crying out to the Lord, like, Lord, help me. And immediately I just heard him, and he said, aim your boot for this tree. And so I look at the edge of this cliff, and I didn't even notice it before, but there's this tree, and it's seriously about the size of my pinky. Just a tiny little, it looked like a little branch just fell out of some tree, and it just sort of twirled around and stuck in the top of this cliff, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, you know. And so I aim my boot for it, and it's this tiny little twig, and I'm sliding, and I'm thinking I'm gonna die. And my uncle's standing down at the bottom of this, you know, thing, like, drop-jawed, like, thinking, oh, he's gonna die or be seriously injured. Like, we'll have to helicopter him out of here somehow or something like that, because there's just, you know, we were hours and hours away, you know, from civilization, from the hike and the drive and everything. And so I'm sliding full throttle, arms flailing, and then finally the Lord spoke, and I just calmed down. I aimed my boot for that, and I hit it, and it was just like, boom, just hard as steel, right? And I thought, wow, that's completely amazing. And so I'm hiking back up, and of course my uncle's like, now aim for the other side this time, don't go straight up, you know, obviously. And, you know, that was when I was 13, and it wasn't until 17 years later I was reading, and I'm a little embarrassed because I, you know, said this in front of a crowd last week, and I quoted Isaiah, and for some reason I think everything's in Isaiah, I don't know why, but anyway, it's Psalm 91, 11 and 12, for he will command his angels concerning you. And when I read that verse, I just had this huge flash, and, you know, and I pictured myself out over this valley, and I see this stupid kid sliding down the hill, right? And there's this huge flash of light, and I saw Gabriel come out of the heavens, and he drove his sword down right in front of that tree. And I'm thinking, it all makes sense now. He will command his angels concerning you, that they may bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone.